Hey everyone, welcome to the Power Monkey Podcast. I'm Dave Durante, and this week and the next couple of weeks, we're going to be offering something slightly different and more unique with our podcast with the CrossFit Open for the 2022 season upon us. This week was 22.1, and what we're doing over the next 3 weeks, myself, my normal co-host Chad Vaughn, along with Chris Hinshaw, the man from the endurance world, we're going to be giving some advice, some primers, some ways to be tackling these workouts as they come up. The workout was just completed by the 4 athletes, and we went through it and we were able to kind of figure out some ways for you guys to think about tackling this particular workout. We'll go through it. It was only about a half an hour long, so it's a nice way to kind of get condensed information, something that might be helpful. We hope you guys enjoy this one, and hopefully you enjoy it for the next couple of weeks. Before we get into it, we wanted to announce our sponsor for this week is UCAN. Most pre and post-workout nutrition products are filled with sugar, fast carbs, or stimulants, and they give you only a quick flash of energy that's very short-lived. We've been big fans of UCAN for a number of years now. They've been a part of camp for about 1.5 to 2 years now. We're super excited to be offering their products at camp, and have been testing it out with our coaches and staff at Power Monkey Camp now for close to 2 years. They are fantastic. They are a trusted partner with a lot of the top CrossFit pros out there, like Scott and Saxon Panchik, Travis Mayer, Emily Rolfe, along with many, many more. UCAN's extended release technology has a remarkable ability to provide a steady flow of energy without spiking blood sugar levels. If you're interested about learning more about UCAN and what we're doing with them, you can check out UCAN, that's UCAN.co/PowerMonkey, and save 25% on your order with the code PowerMonkey. Now let's get to the podcast. All right, fellas. Well, the start of the open season is upon us. 22.1 just announced. I'm really excited to have my normal co-host, Chad Vaughn, and of course, the specialist of all special guests, Chris Hinshaw, on with us. The three of us, SMEs in all of our individual particular areas, gymnastics, weightlifting, endurance training, going to give you a little bit of insight on what happens with these open workouts. And I'm excited about 22.1. If you probably didn't right away, handstands, wall walks back in there, of course, I'm going to be excited about it. But what did you guys think about this announcement?
Go for it, Chad. I know you love the dumbbell.
Well, no, I'm glad that you said that. But again, you've got way too much confidence in me because dumbbell snatches, especially paired with box jump overs, anytime that they've come up in the open before or just in a workout in the CrossFit gym, man, they kill me. That combination really gets me just about almost more than anything else, almost as much as running, Chris, not quite as much, but that combination is tough on me. So that was my immediate thought when I saw it was, oh man, if I got to do this workout, it's going to hurt. Yeah,
there's a couple things that I noticed right away. One, I think it's important to note, this is the first open workout that without Castro there. I think it was kind of interesting to hear an announcement that didn't come from Castro. I think they made a good choice in having Tia do the announcement. But I think we are in a new era now, just trying to move into a new direction here without Castro there. Definitely a little strange, but I think everyone kind of recognized, this is a little bit of a new era in terms of where the open and where the games are going. Along with that, this workout is freaking long, super long, 15 minutes with this triplet. It's Chris, you mentioned, no endurance movements. This is a pacing workout. This is right up your alley.
I mean, let's face it, it's an endurance workout. In track and field, the reason why there's 3,000 meters is they needed to set a benchmark for what is considered an endurance event. And endurance in track and field starts at 3,000 meters, 1.8 miles. For top runners, that's 9 minutes. There is a physiological reason why endurance starts at 9 minutes. And that's where you could have a strong, very high VO2 max, and that will get you to 9 minutes. And we see that all the time with CrossFit athletes. But if you want to go beyond 9 minutes and be competitive, then you've got to have a extremely strong lactate threshold, a maximum sustainable pace.
Mm-hmm. So 15 minutes and altitude as well. I mean, we watched the open being done in Boulder. I think it's something that can't be overlooked with athletes, especially somebody like Noah coming from sea level. Most of these athletes not training at altitude, how much of an impact that's going to have on, say these athletes redo it later this week. How much of that altitude is going to impact their score and then be able to redo it?
Well, so in the movement, and we could just talk about and quantify it in the movement of running. So the altitude that is sitting in Boulder, it is the equivalent of sea level. And looking at the 100-meter distance, if you compare your sea level time to your Boulder time, you'd be 1 second per 100 meters slower. So it's a substantial amount. If you think about it, you know, every 15 to 20 seconds that goes by, just stack on another second just because of the altitude. It matters.
Right. So I would recommend, and I'm sure you would as well, for these athletes to redo this workout, and especially if they're looking to potentially have an opportunity to end up at the top of the podium, finish the Open at the top. If that's going to impact them that much, then they probably most likely redo this Sunday, or, you know, prior to inputting the scores.
Well, for sure. Look at Noah. Noah didn't take off his shirt until what, the last minute to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
You wonder, I mean, Noah needs some temperature there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I think that the altitude, there is no adjustment, unfortunately, for the people that live at altitude and that want to do the Open at altitude. And if you're trying to go to quarterfinals, the truth is that you got to go down to sea level.
Yeah. Now, I'd like to go through each of the individual movements if we can, and we'll start out with wall walks. And I just have a few comments on it from what I noticed. And obviously, wall walks are kind of my jam, right? I'm all about it. Like last year's Open workout, what 21.1 was probably the best workout I ever had in the Open. It was great to see wall walks come back up again. And even though I know I'm getting a lot of shit for this because I started laying down, and I think a lot of other people did too. The workout starts standing up. So everyone, make sure you're standing up facing the wall, and then go into your prone position. Don't start on the ground. Otherwise, that will be a failed workout right off the bat, which happened to me last year. So make sure you are standing up facing the wall before getting into the wall walks. But a couple things to note here. 3 wall walks for these 4 athletes. All these 4 athletes are former gymnasts. And so we got a little bit of a deceiving interpretation of how difficult the real wall walks are going to be for most people. I think by 10 to 12 rounds, what we saw from these 4 athletes, it's going to be devastating, the wall walks, for most other people. And we're going to see them maybe flop down to the ground halfway through rather than guiding themselves down. So the wall walks, you're going to get a little bit of misinterpretation of how challenging they are, because Pat, Noah, Danielle, and Bethany are all really, really good with handstands and have a good, solid gymnastics foundation. So I think it was a little deceiving to think that, oh, you know, they were able to get through them fairly manageably. Also, look at the pace. You know, Chris always talks about the importance of pacing. I love one of the notes that has been very impactful for me in terms of my running is finding your breathing pattern with your steps. Chris, you talk about this all the time. And if you notice the way that they were doing their wall walks, they all had the same pattern to the wall and down from the wall on every single rep. They took 4 steps to the wall and they took 3 steps back. Every single athlete did the exact same pattern on every single repetition. Now, that doesn't mean that 4 and 3 is going to be right for you as an athlete, but you should find a pattern to the wall and a pattern descending that's going to allow you to pace it throughout the entire 15 minutes. So I'd recommend all the athletes to take a few reps to figure out how many steps it takes them to get fully inverted and how many steps it takes them to get fully back down to prone, hands starting in that same starting position again, so they can actually understand, use that as a pacing measure.
Oh, I think that's terrific advice. I mean, that rhythm, you're right. It was, I was very impressed by that. One of the things that I did do is I did record every single round that each Noah and Pat Vellner did, meaning as they transitioned from one movement to the next, I recorded those splits. And what's interesting that if we just take a look at the movement of the wall walk, in the 10 rounds, it took Noah 3 minutes and 45 seconds, and it took Vellner 3:54. Their average, Noah was 22 seconds per round, and Vellner was 23 seconds per round. So they were very close. Interesting to me was comparing their first 5 rounds against their second 5 rounds, meaning what was their rate of slowing? Like, how fatiguing is this workout? And, you know, part of it is that they're only so fast that you can go. And the truth is that these guys slowed down almost 32% in the second 5 rounds when comparing it against the first 5 rounds. So meaning they were about 1 minute and 39 seconds for the first 5 rounds, and they were around 2 minutes and 10 seconds for the second 5 rounds. To me, that's interesting. That is a dramatic rate of slowing.
Do you think
Yeah.
what do you think the factors are there? Do you think they went out too hot? Do you think the altitude isn't, you said that 9-minute point is important, and you get into that second round of 5, that starts to kick into that past the 9-minute barrier. What do you think was the factor there?
So that's a great point. So the reason why is that, their average, like I said, was somewhere around that 22 to 23 seconds. The first round, because it was the start of the competition, they're fired up. The first round took them both 15 seconds. And so they did in the first round pick up around 8 of that difference between the first half and the second half, which still puts it, in that 20+% range of rate of slowing, which is, again, substantial. But as we progress through this workout, what we're going to find out is the biggest rate of slowing was in the box jumps.
Mm-hmm. So transitions now, right? Transitions are always going to be an important factor on these types of workouts where there's only so much time that you can pick up on something like a dumbbell snatch. Do you have suggestions on how you would transition from exercise to exercise? And what I mean by that is, if you're going to pace this workout, would you recommend trying to rest between the exercises, or try to find a pace within each of the exercises where you should drop the dumbbell, take a couple additional breaths between the box jumps? What do you think would be a better strategy there? Resting between the exercise or finding rest points within the actual exercises?
Personally, I would like to make the transition as fast as you possibly can and get yourself ready. You always run the risk, if you are taking your time in your transitions, to taking more time once you get to the movement. So my feeling is that, just get to the position where you need to. And that's what we saw Vellner doing. Vellner's transition, it was really remarkable. And I don't know if you guys caught it, but one of the things that really worked in his benefit is he was doing 16 box jumps for the first couple of rounds,
4 rounds, yeah.
which really put him in a unique position to hop off the box and then step, and then he's laying back down again. It was really quick in attacking the box jump from when he ended that box jump movement into the wall walk. It was dramatically faster than what Noah was doing.
Yeah. Now onto the dumbbell snatch. Chad, you were mentioning maybe before we went on the air, but you think of this as maybe a weightlifting type of a movement, but I imagine that this isn't an exercise you would do very much or you've ever done outside of CrossFit training. What do you think about dumbbell snatches and the workout in general?
Yeah, I mean, whether they're dumbbell snatches or whether they're regular snatches in a CrossFit workout, it's some of the hardest movements for me and for a lot of individuals. And the thing is that we watch these, elite athletes, these elite CrossFitters in general, do these workouts, and we speak in terms of what they did, and we try to compare it to what the other CrossFitters in the community are going to be able to do. And I always try to think of myself as an example, because as you guys know, I get fatigued quicker than just about anyone else does. And so when I'm watching these workouts and when I think about what's going to happen to my body at some point or towards the end of the workout, I try to reason with myself and say, okay, like Chris always talks about, you're going to have to pace. What is the best way for you to pace? And so I'm thinking, if I'm going to have to do singles on the dumbbell snatches in the end, or at some point pretty quickly in the workout, then maybe I should go ahead and do those singles in the beginning. And what that means is, if you're going to have to switch hands anyways, why don't you go ahead and completely set it down on the ground, let go of it. You don't have to stand back up, of course, but then grab it with the other hand instead of switching on the way down, because that's going to take some skill. That's going to take some energy away from you to switch every single time. Now, if you've got elite level capacity and you can blow through all these movements through the whole 15 minutes, then by all means, go ahead and do it. But, as Hinshaw was mentioning, there was a slowing on the last 5 minutes versus the first 5 minutes. Could these athletes have maintained a better pace through the whole workout if they went slightly slower in the beginning? I don't know that. I don't know the answer to that, because they're at such a high level. But I know for myself, if I do these singles from the very beginning, I'm going to probably get a better score ultimately through those 15 minutes. I'm going to be able to sustain my pace for a little bit of a longer period of time, or better throughout the entire workout. And another part of this too is that, again, we see these athletes doing certain things, like they muscle snatch the whole time.
Yeah.
with single arms, and they have the ability to do that and still be able to maintain their level of pace to a relative degree. For me, that's going to kill me. It's going to kill me very quickly. So I'm going to be power snatching the dumbbells along with doing single reps throughout the entire workout. And with doing that and trying to squat down a little bit more as opposed to leaning over with a rounded back and doing a Romanian deadlift, you're going to be using more of your whole body instead of isolating portions of your body, even though you're doing these box jump overs right after, where you might be saying, because I've got to do these box jump overs, I want to save my legs. No, don't try to save your legs on the muscles, on the dumbbell snatches. Use more of your whole body, be as efficient and as effective as you can on each individual movement. And we're talking about dumbbell snatches right now. So think in terms of squatting down, doing a power snatch instead of a muscle snatch, setting it down and gripping it with the other hand, and then going again, and then get into a rhythm like that. And I think you're going to have a better chance of not having to rest in the middle of those muscle snatches. I mean, I think I'm going to have to anyway, to be honest with you, but I'm going to have the best chance. And I think other individuals will have the best chance of not having to rest in the middle of their muscle snatches if they go power and if they do singles from the very beginning.
I think that's such an awesome point, Chad. And it's something I was really excited to ask you about because, all four of these athletes are just so strong that they don't have to squat down very much to do the dumbbell snatch, that they can just muscle snatch throughout the entire exercise. And what I find would potentially be a big issue going right into the box jump, not just saving the legs, but it's going to blow up their back much more, right? I mean, their back is going to get blown up. So for the average athlete that's watching that movement being done by Pat or by Noah or anyone else, they say, I'm going to try to do it that way. You might not have the back strength and the back ability to be able to maintain in the same way they are. You go to those box jumps over and your back is going to get blown up by round 3. So I think you're exactly right that, maybe they're doing it a particular way because they have the strength to be able to kind of maybe allow them to sustain it throughout the 15 minutes, but that's probably not going to work for everybody.
Well, plus we're talking about a 50-pound and a 35-pound dumbbell that's not extremely easy for everyone. So, even for me, that's a light weight for me, or medium weight, whatever it is, whatever you want to call it. But it's going to kill my arms. If I muscle snatch all those, my arms are going to be extremely fatigued going into the wall walks that I'm going to have to use my arms on.
Yeah. I got one more question now, the transition to the box jumps. And we saw a few different techniques. The guys, they have the 24-inch box jumps a little bit higher. They were finishing in a pretty deep squat from the beginning. They were not finishing very high, using less of a jump, finishing low, and transitioning fairly through that bottom squat onto the other side. The ladies were doing something slightly different, especially as they started. The 20-inch box jump a little bit lower. They were jumping a little higher. Bethany did it throughout. Danielle was kind of switching back and forth from finishing in a really high jump versus finishing down low. Chad, if you were to do this, would you try to finish down low? And do you think that would start to create too much of a pump in your legs? Or I'm curious what your strategy would be in terms of finishing position on the box jump.
Again, I have to think in terms of what's going to happen to me pretty quickly or towards the end of the workout. And I know that with these box jump overs very quickly, with being in energy conservation mode, I'm going to have to land in a full squat. One, I've got mobility and I'm comfortable in that position, so it's not going to fatigue me near as much as jumping high and landing high. So I'm going to land in that full squat and I'm going to step down. And now, even if the standard wasn't that you have to step down, I would have stepped down immediately anyways, again, because I think that's more efficient. It's going to be more efficient than jumping up and then jumping back down and having to land and catch yourself. So jumping up, landing in a squat, stepping down, and then as much as I possibly can, going right back into that next rep. But again, if you're exploding hard or as harder to land higher to try to save your legs, it's like not really going to conserve in the way that you think it's going to.
I kind of walked you into that, Chad, just giving you the ability to talk about bottom squat position as much as possible.
Hey, I feel like I did a really good job cutting that short. So there you go.
But I mean, what you're saying though, Chad, is that like Vellner probably had it easier than on the box jumps because of his height.
Yeah.
Right. I think so too.
No doubt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I initially thought about it at the when this was announced. I'm like, does Noah have an advantage because of the wall walks and the dumbbell snatches. But the truth is that it didn't turn out to be an advantage at all.
Mm-hmm.
The true advantage was the height and getting on and off of that box.
Mm-hmm.
Unless the altitude impacted him more than I think he anticipated. I mean, I'm curious to see if Noah redoes this down in Miami, what his score ends up being. But Chris, back to you on the box jumps. The new standard here. I'm a huge proponent of this standard change, and it's something we talk about all the time. Always working towards proper mechanics, always working towards highest version of the movement. I love the idea of them working away from rebounding on the box jump and working more towards a stepping down. I'm curious from your perspective, what we've seen with torn Achilles and things like that and injuries to the lower leg, how you feel about this new standard change.
I love this new change. I mean, to make it a mandatory change where they're telling athletes, you must step down. Let's face it, the risk that you're willing to take if you're a competitive athlete is extreme. I mean, the extraordinary measures that people put themselves in to get to the next level, they're always going to take a risk, always. I mean, the things that I used to do in the sport of triathlons, like if my bike wasn't sliding when I was going down a steep mountain pass because I wasn't cornering sharp enough, I was disappointed in myself. That you wanted to be right on that razor's edge all the time. And I like the fact that this is mandated. It's now CrossFit, and I see a dramatic shift, that they're really looking out for the safety, the health and well-being of the athlete. That's a big deal in my opinion.
I couldn't agree more. I love that change. And all the listeners out there, be ready for some additional changes as well. Like we talk about all the time, standards will continue to change, whether that be on the gymnastics side or now we're seeing on some jumping movements. Be prepared and understand that, safety needs to be taken into consideration. I like this change.
I think that the box jumps, without a doubt, were the hardest of the three movements. But interestingly enough, I mean, first of all, I really like this workout. I like the way in which it was structured. I think that they put a lot of time into each of the time domains, meaning they tried to create something that was very balanced. I mean, if we talk about balanced, on average, it was roughly 4 minutes for the first movement. For the second movement, it was 4.5 minutes, and the third movement was a little over 5 minutes. I mean, very, very close between the three of them. But without a doubt, these two, like the men, they struggled the most in the box jump. I believe that most people will struggle the most in the box jump because of the ballistic nature of a jump. When you look at a ballistic movement, you're forced to recruit more fast twitch fibers, and unfortunately, that's how the fatigue is going to really skyrocket. And this is a decent number of reps where there's no relief. And so, I think that the ballistic in that high force recruitment to make this jump is going to be the biggest trouble for most people. And we saw it also with Noah. Noah's fit. I mean, look at Noah at the end of that. I mean, Noah, 2 months ago, ran a 5:09 mile. So if it's hurting a guy that could run a 5:09 mile, imagine what it will do to, the recreational or even the experienced CrossFit athlete.
Yeah, I just wouldn't underestimate the wall walks. From what we saw last year in 21-1, how devastated people were, even in the early rounds. I know it was 21 to start out with, and it was pretty devastating, but 3 reps over the course of numerous rounds are going to be blowing up people's shoulders. You're going to see a lot of just cascading down the wall rather than the guiding that we saw for most of these athletes. So I wouldn't sleep on the wall walks for most of the recreational athletes out there.
Yeah, well, Dave, I think, go ahead, Chad.
I was going to say, I have to completely agree, because it's very deceiving when we watch, as you said in the beginning, Dave, these 4 athletes, these elite CrossFitters with solid gymnastic backgrounds, do the wall walks. And again, I'm using myself for an example. Again, I've got a strong upper body. I'm good with handstands, but I'm probably going to fall on my face pretty quickly with these wall walks, and I'm pretty confident in that. I'm a little bit scared.
And your overhead position is phenomenal. You know what I mean? Your handstand mobility, is great.
All this stuff. But that just to your point, 15 minutes, multiple rounds of this. walking up and down the wall like that. I would rather honestly do handstand push-ups. And I wanted to ask you, Dave, what you think about this movement. And do you feel like it is their way of trying to be more inclusive, which I think it is probably a little bit more inclusive, but is it, what are the pros and cons of using this instead of handstand push-ups or handstand walks? And what do you think about the standard?
I think it's a really good point, Chad, and something that Sadie and I were talking about when we were watching the Open live. I love the change, and it's one of the main reasons is, I am not a huge proponent of kipping handstand push-ups for anyone, not even elite CrossFitters. They are much more in a place to be able to control their reps and be able to do high volume when it comes to kipping handstand push-ups. But most recreational athletes who are doing kipping handstand push-ups can't do strict. So what ends up happening is just dropping down to their head, within the first few reps. You have 100 reps. What's that doing to your neck over time? And just talk about the longevity of an athlete. So from my perspective, yes, it's about being more inclusive and allowing a lot more of the general population to take part, even if, it's a slight shift, not going fully inverted, but it's also a safety measure too, to make sure that people aren't doing kipping handstand push-ups when they really shouldn't be.
Yep.
For sure. Well, and it also takes less risky. I mean, the amount of people that I have seen doing open workouts that are trying to be competitive, jamming their head into the ground, and just the damage it's doing to their neck and their spine. No, I think this is going back to, trying to find a safer way to create a complete test. Yeah, back to what I was going to add about the box jumps is the amount of fatigue that is going to develop in the body. Lactic acid, those fatigue causing metabolites are going to be skyrocketing in that box jump, and it's going to enter the bloodstream. And if you're sitting there thinking my upper body's going to recover while doing that lower body box jump, you're kidding yourself. As we know, that lactic acid, those fatigue causing metabolites, as soon as it hits the bloodstream, it's now going and trying to find vacant muscle groups, and there's nowhere it's going to hide. Those smaller muscle groups, the upper body, are going to be damaged. And that's what people don't recognize is, look at the amount of lean muscle mass that you have in your legs, and now compare that against your biceps, triceps, and deltoids, your shoulders. I mean, it's apples and oranges. And so, yeah, no, I agree. I think that those wall walks are going to be brutal, but without a doubt, what we saw from at least Vellner and Olsen, their rate of slowing in those box jump was, almost 35% from the first half to the second half. It hurt them.
I think one of the things that'll be really interesting. Are you guys all planning on doing the workout?
I love this workout.
I know, it's right up your alley. So we should come back. We have next week's, and we should all talk about how it went for us and what we actually thought about the fatigue points doing it personally. But, Chris, you mentioned that it was a pretty evenly split, 4 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, somewhere around there, 4.5 minutes between the three exercises. I'm really curious for the average CrossFitter how that split is going to look. I think that'll give us a really good indication of where the fatigue points really set in. So we can use it ourselves as the average CrossFitter to kind of maybe use a little bit stopwatch and figure out our own splits.
I mean, I think that
use me for the below level, below average, but yeah.
This is a tough time domain for Chad.
Painful.
Anything over 4 seconds.
Honestly, I think that this, with the wall walks, anytime that you are an athlete and you're fatigued and you're laying on the ground, you're going to lay on the ground a little bit longer each time that body lays there. And you're going to surprise yourself how much time you chew up by laying on the ground. You see it with burpees all the time.
Yep. It's going to become a resting position for most people. Yeah.
Right. And the box jumps, I mean, let's face it, that step down is of value, and there is some opportunity to recover. And unfortunately, with the smaller, muscle groups of the upper body, there's just no relief. Yeah, I mean, we're going to find some people sleeping there.
I'll be the first one.
Well, I love it, guys. I think this is a sufficient starting point for week one. Predictions. Any predictions on who you think might be well suited for this outside of the 4 athletes that we saw?
Go ahead, Chad.
Chris, I think you have the best idea on this. I mean, I do think that we'll probably have someone go over 12 rounds, is my prediction on that.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not sure who it will be, but I think somebody will probably hit that.
Yeah, for sure. It's going to go over 12 rounds. For sure.
All right. How about this? Within our Power Monkey coaching staff community, who's going to crush this one? Who in our group? Jordan. Yeah. Jordan.
Yeah, Jordan should be thrown out. It's not fair. Yeah, he's an anomaly.
I'd say Vanessa. Vanessa's going to destroy this workout.
Yeah, she should do well.
Yeah, so we'll see. We'll get back on here. If you have not already and you're listening here, go on to and you're doing the Open, add Power Monkey Fitness, hashtag Power Monkey Fitness to your team, and you can follow along with other Power Monkey coaches that are doing the workouts each week, and you can follow along with where we all place. So it'll be a good way for you guys to track along with the coaches that are doing it.
Well, Dave, let me hear your prediction. What's your prediction for yourself and Hinshaw, you as well, just so I know, have something to aim for?
How many rounds?
Yeah.
7.
7? Okay.
I was going to say around 8. I think I could probably get 8.
Okay. I was gonna say 5 for myself, just to
that's really low bar there, Chad, huh?
Well, I don't know, Chris. You've seen me breathe and recover before, Chris. What should I aim for? Give me something to aim for. What am I capable of?
Yeah, just try and get into the 6th round. That would be okay. That would be a good one. Because Chad, it's 15 minutes.
So I can get 6. I'll get 6 rounds in 10 minutes, and then I'll basically be done, and I'll have to rest for the last 5 minutes. How about that?
Jordan's asking if we should have a bet going on. Maybe we should throw it out there for this first week. Let's see if any listeners out there can come up with a good bet for us that we can do in front of everyone. Chad and I always have a fun little competition going on from the Open that I think, Chad, you still owe me our rhythmic.
I don't know. I think I think so much time has passed that's
it's voided by now
at this point.
All right, we can start over again. Well,
for this one, only if I can have a handicap. I got to have a handicap on this one, even though there's a 50-pound dumbbell in there.
All right. Well, as soon as the barbell workout comes up that has more than 95 pounds on it, I want a handicap.
That's fine with me. You can do that.
All right. Before we jump off, Chris, tell everybody where you're at. It's kind of a cool location where you were for this first workout.
Oh, I got invited to. I do work with the FDNY, and there's a throwdown between the FDNY and the NYPD tonight at CrossFit Gantry. And so I got invited. CrossFit HQ is going to be out there, and yeah, it's going to be a good event. They're throwing down at 7 p.m. tonight. So just after this, we're going to head over there and
love it.
Going to Queens. And yeah, I really like what CrossFit is doing with the occupational games. They're making an effort to feature first responders, and that's going to pull more people into the community. And I think that's great. I think that, the awareness, what's happening with first responders and the importance of health and fitness, and now to feature it, I think it's going to create some momentum. Yeah, there's a good buzz of energy. Well, you know what, New York's your city, Dave.
Oh yeah. I love it. And I used to go to the gym right around the block from Gantry. To live in Queens for many years, so I know the area well. So have fun out there tonight. I know you're pulling for FDNY, so you got to give us a little rundown of how it went and how the firefighters and the police actually did with it.
Will do next week. Yep, for sure. Or awesome. Yeah, next Thursday.
Do it.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, Dave, unless you have anything to add, I think we can probably wrap it up with that.
Go for it.
Good for week 1. It was a pleasure, absolute pleasure. Always a pleasure to chat with you guys, and especially a pleasure to sit here and look at Jordan the whole time. So I'm glad he's here with us as well. But look forward to seeing you guys again next week and talking more about the Open. I'm a little bit worried about this workout, but I'll do it, I suppose, since we have to, and get it done, and maybe I'll be alive to talk about it next weekend. But to our listeners out there, as always, we very much appreciate you guys listening in. Be sure to head over to powermonkeyfitness.com for services and upcoming events. Also check out our Instagram pages for regular teaching and technical content at Power Monkey Fitness, at Dave Durante, and at Ollie Chad. And on behalf of Power Monkey Fitness, we're your hosts, I'm Chad Vaughn with Dave Durante. And until next time, guys, thank you all for listening.